All right, week 10 in the books. We head to week 11. Already started. Jets lose to the Patriots last night in what was pretty much a one-sided affair, besides the one drive the Jets had to start the game. But we'll get into last week real quick. I beat Tyler 150 to 93. Gaddy beat Reed 146 to 127. Rusty beat Sidnam 164 to 115. We got Carbs 127, Ted 67, Bobby 85, Dooley 80, and then Brad loses to Matt in a big key matchup 111 to 130. So that's how we end last week. We'll start real quick at the bottom, and then I got some things to get to the top. Tyler at 12 still. It probably should be Ted at this point. So maybe next week I make a change because Ted's team's 1-9 with less points scored. Parker Washington's a solid pickup, though. I mean, I don't know how much I believe in the Jags, but Trevor Lawrence likes to throw to that guy. Yeah, I'm a little worried that with Brian Thomas Jr. not having the year that I thought, he's been a solid pickup. So I think he could do some good. And obviously just kind of looking back at some of the, like Jonathan Brooks on the IR, just like that should have been a really good pick for you. And it didn't pan out. But obviously having all the picks that you have, we kind of know it's about the future. Ted at 1-9, and only putting up 60 points last week. I know CeeDee Lamb had a bye, but it's not great. However, there's positives to look with Ted's team too. Number one pick right now. If the season ended today, Ted would have the number one pick in the draft. So there's good. He also has 2 firsts this year, so you got 3 picks in the first round, and then another one next year. So you got 5 first-round picks the next 2 years. So Ted had a really good run, kind of knowing when to give up. Again, this league could go on forever, so you can't have a good team every year. But I think where Ted's team is at, this is fine. You have the number one pick. My guess is Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame is going to be the guy. He's going to be a stud. You got Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State, Carnell Tate out of Ohio State. A couple guys I think will probably go high in this draft, but to me, Love, if he goes to a team, is going to be like the next like Bijan or Genty kind of deal. He's that good. He's awesome. So Ted have the number one pick right now. Tyler would have the number 2 pick, but then a lot of those guys controlled the first round, whereas a lot of guys don't have any first round picks this time. Sidnam at 10. Believe it or not, Sidnam's got 3 first round picks this year. So you think about it, like I think Dooley's got 2 ones this year. So you think about it, if Tyler's got, I think Tyler only has his first rounder. Ted's got 3. Sidnam's got 3. Dooley's got 2. That's 9 picks between those 4 guys in the first round this year. I could be wrong, and someone could double check me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's how we look. So you got to think those who are the bottom 4 teams, they at least have the ammo next year to kind of rebuild the team. And I don't think Sidnam's team is that far off because you look at what his team is. You have the Warrens, Tyler, and Jalen. You have Quinshawn Judkins, who's been really good for the Browns. Rome, I think, will only ascend now with Caleb playing better in his second year. Joe Burrow will come back, and that's your fantasy quarterback. So if Sidnam can hit on a few of these picks that he's got coming up in this draft, I think his team is right back in the mix. But again, we thought that with Bobby's team last year, and on paper it worked. It just hasn't been there until we get to that story in a second. Dooley at 9, again, Dooley's got 2 1s and 2 2s this year. So there's a chance that if you hit on these picks, Dooley's team can be back into it. I know he needs running backs badly, but the receivers are good, and the quarterback's good, and I just think Dooley's got to hit on some of these picks in the running back department. Otherwise, his team could be right there. Bobby's at 8. Don't look now, he's won 3 in a row. It wasn't a pretty win last week. Only scored 80 points against Dooley, who only put up 80. But Bobby's team's won 3 in a row. Can it be sustained with some of these guys in the sophomore slump kind of letting them down? Marv's played better since Brissett has been the quarterback, so you like that. It's tough because Bowers put up 44 the week before, and last week he only had 1 catch. So how are you supposed to judge that? But good news, they are playing the shitty Cowboys defense on Monday Night Football. So good matchup for those guys as you get into the later part. Obviously, losing Jaden Daniels was tough, so there's been some things not go Bobby's way, but on paper, the team's really good. I stay at 7 for now. Did win a big game, huge game against Rusty this week. But Olave's been really good. I mean, the receivers are there for me, so The running backs are set, so this is a big game against Rusty. Because if I don't win this game, I go to 5-6. It might be tough to get in the postseason at this point, with I think only 3 games left. So you got 11, so you got 11, 12, 13. So you got 3 weeks left of the regular season, and then 14 starts the playoffs. 15 starts the playoffs. So you got 4 weeks left to kind of figure it out at this point. So here's what I did for the top 6, because in my opinion, the teams with the best records, the better records, aren't the best teams, I would say, roster-wise in points for. Like the teams that are like 6-4 probably have the better rosters, and to me, probably have the better chance. But I want to take in fact that you have won these games. You have had the matchups. The depth has been there. The only consideration I took was for Matt at 8-2. So I kind of did like who I think are the best teams. I didn't necessarily take into. I did a little differently with the top 6 because I think you're going to look, well, he's got 2 more wins than somebody else. Like, I'm just looking at the best teams. Yeah, the Chiefs are 5-4 right now. Do you really think they're not better than the Colts? Do you think they're better than Denver? Yeah. The record doesn't necessarily matter in that spot. So it's kind of what I did with the top 6. I tried to be fair. I got Brad's team at 6. I know it's Brad's team 7-3. You can argue there's teams that less wins, but I don't think this team's good. Listen, I don't think this team's good. Algier with the start last week, very nice. I still think, him and Bijan are a good duo. Is Nico Collins back? You still got the neck at quarterback this week, but get Stroud back, who knows? But I think that's at least a good start. And just got to hope McCaffrey stays healthy, man, because, man, when that guy's healthy, he is special. He's so good. Carbs at 5, 7-3, and you're thinking Bucky comes back, so maybe that helps the boost. So I just think the team's overall very solid with London and all those guys there. And, I just think Allen's going to bounce back after what was a tough week, and I think Carb's team will be just fine. I also took the fact that, these guys at the, Brad and Matt and Carbs, they've had least amount of points scored against them. They've had less points scored against them than some of the other guys. So that's kind of where my head went with a lot of this. I got Rusty at 4. I told you Rusty's team was moving up. That's 5 wins in a row. Jonathan Taylor's been a big part of that. And obviously Ladd McConkey's starting to kind of come on. Drake May's been playing like an MVP in the NFL. So I really like what his team has done. And I just think if you have Taylor healthy, man, he's going to be a 20, 30-point guy every week. So, hopefully that kind of, stays consistent for you there. So I got Reed at 3. I know we're dropping Reed a few notches here, but it has been 2 losses in a row. Is the Saquon Jalen Hurts duo a good thing? I have Lamar and Derek and Henry, and it just hasn't, I don't know. It just feels like they've also had a tough stretch too, where they've played some good teams. They have Detroit coming up, and I just think with Philly's schedule's going to get easier, and I think it'll be fine, and I think they'll be okay. But I feel like Jalen, Saquon, had a chance to come back against Gaddy the other day, and it just was a letdown in my opinion. But that Packers defense is good, so it may not necessarily be that. But you have Amon-Ra, you got Puka, you got Trey McBride, who's awesome. I think the team's going to be good, but back-to-back losses. Got to put Gaddy ahead of Reed because Gaddy just beat Reed. Now Gaddy's at 6-4. Team's starting to play a lot better. I still think no matter what, he's the team you want to play the least. You can say it's somebody else. You can say it's Matt's team who's at number 1 at 8-2. But I think you'd be lying to yourself to say that Gaddy's team's the team you want to face the least in the postseason, right? I think that's how my head is going. But I got to respect Matt at number 1 because his team has played really well. He is the only team at 8-2. Right now, he would have that first round bye. And I think the wide receivers have been poor for him with Sutton being very up and down and Wilson kind of being hurt and just, having Justin Fields be your quarterback. But I love what Travion Henderson's really starting to come back. You love what Rico Swift has done for the Panthers. Achane is, people kind of forget how good he's been with the Dolphins because they've been so bad, but Achane has been a fantasy monster. And DeAndre Swift having a much better season than they did last year. Believe me, I had him last year. Very disappointing. And good quarterback option. The depth's there. So I got to put Matt at number 1 right now. He does have the least amount of points scored against, but having that 8-2 record to me, having that 2-game advantage against most of the other teams is a big deal. So that's kind of where I went with these rankings. Again, right now, if it was if we had the playoffs today, I was kind of looking at it. Um, I'll just give you a quick playoff picture. So right now, Matt and Carbs would have the bye. You would have Brad face Rusty, and you would have Gaddy face Reed in a rematch. So to me, that's Matt having the 1 seed isn't necessarily a good thing because you got the winner of those two teams, and that would be tough. Whereas I think Carbs would have the easier matchup of Brad and Rusty if it came into that. But again, Rusty's team's playing really well right now. He's won the last 4 games, and the team's starting to get a little bit better. And, right there, you got me and Bobby only 1 game out. So we're right there. And Dooley, I guess you could say, is still sniffing at 4 and 6, but let's be fair. I think this is still an 8-team race where I think me and Bobby got a chance to get in. And I think Dooley, Sidnam, Ted, and Tyler it's just not going to probably be their year. But hey, Dooley's 4 and 6. Anything can happen. It's still, but would probably need to win out at this point. So that would be our playoff picture as of right now. So we get into the start of the week. I told you, I play Rusty. This is a huge game. Because if I could get to 6 and 5, me and Rusty are tied. I have the tiebreaker. I get in the playoffs. If Rusty goes to 7 and 4, I go to 5 and 6. Might be tough for me to get back into that 6 seed right there. So this is a big game. I know Rusty had 18 points from Drake May yesterday. I had an IDP guy and Mace Taylor give me 9, but for the most part, my team has not to play. And Jonathan Taylor's on a bye, which is a big blow for Rusty. It's a big help for me. So I'm really hoping that not having Taylor is a big deal. You got Ted versus Sidnam again. Battle of the bottom at this point. If Ted, do you want to win at this point? Because you want to keep that number 1 pick. Because I don't know if Tyler's going to win another game. So take that for what it is. So. And you got Dooley and Tyler. So you got the bottom matchups kind of going on this week with Tyler up a little bit right now at 16-9 with Diggs having a pretty good game, actually. And he might be a factor down the road because he's got a baby coming up with Cardi B. So there could be some touchdowns his way to help pay for all that child support. So like what Diggs has done, like what they're doing over there. And then a couple of other key matchups. Matt and Reed. Matt's team with a really good start with Travion. Breece Hall not giving you much. So Matt has a really good start on Reed. He's going to need that. And Travion getting 31. If Matt's team goes to 9 and 2, you can basically lock up the 1 seed at this point for him. So that's a really good start for Matt and a good start because you have 4 running backs. You can kind of play any of the 4. It's going to be, all right, you got to pick 3. Who you picking? And Travion, I think, right now is the guy to play because with Ramondre hurt and Vrabel finally saying, hey, we got to play this guy. Brad and Carbs, another big matchup. Both teams 7 and 3. You think if you win that matchup, you probably could be looking at the bye spot. So to me, Carbs and Brad, nobody played yesterday. So I think that's a really key matchup between those guys. And then you got Bobby and Gaddy. Bobby's got to win. To me, this is a must win for Bobby because if he doesn't win this matchup, I don't think he's got a chance of making the playoffs. And I'm thinking the same thing on my end. If I don't beat Rusty, I'm 5 and 6. I don't know if I get in that playoff spot because there's a lot of competition at the top. So that's going to do it for the power rankings. I know a little longer today. And have a great weekend, and we will talk next week.